Hello, so this will be a shorter video because I don't want to expand the explanations too much, and I'll also make other videos with shorter tips as well, but some videos will mostly be about a single subject only when I get to the end game mechanics and I can showcase a lot of stuff. So let's begin. Tip number 1. We have a new trading interface which is extremely well done and I like it a lot. You can now buy directly items from stations. Completing missions gives credit as well. So that means you can buy some items even now after only doing a few missions for that faction without engaging in bartering. So how does this happen? Well, let's take this station over here. They are producing those items. Oh, that's scary. You go to the exchange area over here and they'll show you those items. Now, I already bought the research stations because there's a limited number of them. And they haven't replenished that. So they have a limited number. Sadly, they don't tell you how many they have before you get there. So you might be shocked a little bit. You want to buy, let's say, 10 research stations, but they only have 5. And you just press it over here. As you can see, we have the credit over here. But also, there's a modifier. So if it's a discount, that means they like you in the area of your friends. The discount is applied after you switch over here. So 183, 137 is the real price, and this is how much you have. So it will show you how much you have, plus the true price after modifiers. So what does this mean? For example, you can come over here, and let's say you can give them the stuff they want, which will give you a lot of points, as you can see, but you probably don't want to do this like this. Be very careful you don't sell the items you want or the bartering items you might need for later, because you'll be crafting a lot in the end game. This also means it's kind of pointless to trade with factions that don't like you, simply because you'll have a huge modifier against you. So you see the difference. They are asking double the price, while the factions that like you are giving you bigger discounts. So unless they have something you really want, you do not want to do any of this bartering stuff. Yeah, these are very expensive items, but I barely get a little bit for them. And then I can, for example, can buy the research data dump or something like that. So I have the research stations over here. As you can see, I bought them. Those are actually pretty cheap and it's super worth it. Now let's go to tip number 2. What item should you buy first from this new system? Well, as usual, I recommend you just buy the clone classes and the clone chips themselves. The mine chips and the class chips until you get whatever you like to play as, but you also need a lot of these for some upgrades, so might as well buy them slowly every time you see an opportunity. And then of course, obviously you'll want some basic chips and some other stuff, but sadly the basic chips you'll need a lot of them to complete some things. I guess you can try to fish for armors, because now you can unlock a full set of armor with a single chip. But I don't recommend you do this a lot, just until you get the stuff you want, because, well, I still recommend Tanorats, as Percy the Tanorat has the best clone in class. But secondly, you want to switch to other things like the navigation upgrades. The navigation upgrades are amazing. Remember, you get the opportunity to create missions wherever you are, which means more missions on Mars or more missions on planets owned by corporations. You also get the scanner, which is amazing, because it will allow you to see the map. Well, you see it through the fog of war, which means you'll not have access to some things, but you'll see the maps, which is extremely useful, because it will make the first floor of levels, which are usually the biggest, the most annoying, and the ones that are more like a maze, and you can actually lose if you get lost in the first floor. So this is amazing, but you also have access, well, other scanners and other mission generators, but this will allow you to own a minor corporation. Now, there are a few things we have to talk about this, but mostly you want to rush the navigation upgrades, so you can get the stuff you want. Now, let's speak about team number 3, which is what corporation to own. Well, of course you not own the Hexarchy, but as a small reminder, so the game is divided between 3 major, let's say, factions over here. You have the minor corporations, like Civil Resistance. This says they're independent, but don't believe that. Minor corporations, the Hexarchy, which are these guys, which are kind of like the biggest corporations and the strongest ones, which will usually end up controlling the game anyway. They have the evil pyramid sign, the triangle of, yeah. And then you just have Ted's clan and some other things. Like, I would say there are a few factions that are a bit more evil than the others, but usually you want to prevent some certain factions from expanding too much. And kind of like the pirates are in this category as well. And I'm not sure if you can conquer the pirates as well, but basically you will get a mission to kill the CEO or some important person of the faction. Doesn't really matter. The details are not important. It will generate a mission. I recommend you, when you're playing the game, I recommend you only support the minor factions, the minor corporations like Civil Resistance, Core World. Daydreams, usually they are too strong anyway. They're almost like a hexarchy, so don't bother too much with them. Planet Bridge, Grasshopper, Sunlight. Tianming is also hexarchy, but I guess I beat them too much. They still have a lot of properties. And French Comte. Now, I always go for helping Civil Resistance because they are the weakest and technically they are the good guys. So what you want to do is kind of subscribe. Subscribing does nothing except highlight what corporations you like. Subscribe to all of the minor corporations and help them in a way where no faction is destroyed, because you have permanent faction destruction. So that means a few factions might disappear before you reach the end game. So that's why I recommend you do this early on. And you want to have a balanced end game with all of the corporations surviving. The strongest corporation is Ancom, the weakest is Civil Resistance. So yeah, I still recommend Civil Resistance because they are the good guys. Well, almost the good guys. Also, it's worth mentioning that some of these corporations, again, will fluctuate a lot in power and some of their assets will be far away from your reach. So you might as well just try to balance whatever you can, help Civil Resistance, fight Encom as much as we can in the beginning of the game, because they have some very high things that will generate a lot of technology, and once they reach this tech level, you'll have no chances of beating them ever again. Tilt is also annoying, really annoying with their electric guns, which they get a bit later, and some of their other stuff is... It involves freezing, and you don't have a lot of defenses against freezing, so they're basically a double, triple elemental damage. Again, I'll not get into details, but Encom and LT can be very problematic to face later into the game. Now, team number 4, what items to keep and stockpile? Well, a lot of spare equipment while taking materials and slowly upgrading. I also recommend you buy gun and armor crates with the barter system or the buying system, the shopping system, so you can give yourself a big boost in the early game and keep a lot of upgrades for augments and implants. As you can see, I have a few, well, actually I have a lot of spare guns right now because I keep dying, and you cannot do a mission with the pistol anymore because some enemies are just too strong and you will get too many injuries, and yeah. It makes the game a lot more interesting, but the game is much harder now, no more pistol runs. Or naked runs. As you can see, I have a lot of spare armor just because of how dangerous the game is currently. Sadly, I lost about 6 or 7 buffalo backpacks until now. I also recommend you keep a huge amount of basic materials so you can craft some items later, but also sometimes you'll need to take... For example, I don't have any more rags because I use them as bandages in some missions, sadly. Also, you'll sometimes take the weapon parts into a mission. Yeah, it depends on the context. You have to look at what is repaired by what, but even plastic can repair armor, even rags can repair armors now. And over here I have the very cool stuff, the very cool and expensive stuff, which will be useful for later or to barter. Usually I keep it over here. But yeah, everything is very important and everything is indispensable. I just showed you some of the items so you kind of know how to differentiate them and put them in another place. Also, I recommend you keep everything right now, especially the fuel and some of the other stuff, because some ammo types will require that, especially some of the newer stuff like the explosive stuff. This is just what I try to keep all of the unique guns for showcases. And also, look at how many chips and implants there are right now. Plus, you can unlock chips to produce them, but for that you need to unlock the ship upgrade that actually lets you produce them. This is some of the new ammo. Poison explosion, or just fire, and that's why I have a lot of gas to make ammo for these things. So the game is a lot more expensive right now, more or less, but I just wanted a quick reminder of this stuff. Okay, let's go to tip number 5. Consumables are a huge part of the game, and let's look at some of them. This will take a while, but basically they design and rebalance the game so you will not have a fun time. For example, let's look at the ways you can reduce QuasiMorphosis right now. You need the morphine, for example, but everything causes addiction much faster. I think if after 1 or 2 morphines you'll already get addicted. Which is kind of annoying because it's only 20% chance to get addicted, but it's pretty big and you might get unlucky. Usually after 3 or 4 shots, it's almost an addiction. So, to cure morphine, by the way, all of the negative effects of addictions are huge. For example, nicotine will give you 1 pain per turn. I had a weird game where I had about 70 pain accumulated because I got too quickly addicted to nicotine. Whoa, this game is worse than real life right now. And same for the other stuff like alcohol or other things. The chance for alcoholism is a little lower, but you also get intoxication, which reduces your accuracy for a while. So basically, to use morphine, you need naloxone. Otherwise, it's much safer to go up to, let's say, 600, 700 QuasiMorph forces, and I really mean it. The chances of getting addicted are too high, and that actually ruined a lot of missions for me. So 5 morphines, you should take at least 1 naloxone with you. For the cigarettes, oh, by the way, there's a new stacking method. I'll not speak about these things, but 15% chance, and you get pain. You get actual pain. I think alcoholism in the later stages reduces health per turn. This one gives you pain per turn, which is arguably the worst because you'll only be able to walk a single tile even if you're in normal mode. You walk a tile, you get standard turnover. So for this you need Barafil. Cosmos, Barafenil, nicotine addiction minus 50%. And for alcohol, of course, you need sorbent. Now, there's a catch. It's actually kind of a big catch. So as you can see, this will cure alcoholism, right? Right, but only the sorbent. So not the pills, the antibiotics, whatever they are. So it's going to be much, much harder to manage all of this stuff. Also, you will need some nanostims because they will stabilize all wounds. They have a big chance of filling all of them. They also reduce shock and pain. So in case you're fighting stupid Dilty and the robots and their lightning guns, this is kind of like the only way to reduce it. You also will need anti-radiation when you are fighting enemies with lasers, because this will reduce radiation sickness. But yeah, also, drinking reduces radiation sickness, but as you can imagine, you might not want to reduce QuasiMorph forces. I'll have to speak about this in another video, but it's actually pretty good to have 200, 300 QuasiMorph forces at all times, because that will mean all of the enemies in a room will probably die because the melee was upgraded. But again, I'll speak about this at a later time. And these are some of the consumables, but you also have the repair kits for armors. You also have to remember that certain armors get repaired with plastic or armor plates. Yeah, just get plastic. It's such a big change, but mostly you repair stuff with plastic or rags. Look at this armor. You just put some shoe polish on the rag, polish the armor, and now it's all better. It feels better and it can survive better. Rags and plastic for this as well. Other notable consumables will be the grenades as well. This counts as a consumable, so you'll need to use grenades of all types right now because, yeah, just opening a room and finding 2 or 3 enemies can be deadly in the room because armor changes made it so that even enemies with light armor can seem like they're pretty tanky. Plus, that changes to accuracy and some other stuff. Plus, you'll need a lot more food types. Plus, the healing items. Also, look at how many usages the PMC rations have. So, again, just have a lot of everything. Also, this cures alcoholism antidote, but mostly you'll have to stick with this. Also, they changed a little bit how the first aid kits work. So the medicine, the military one, will cure radiation sickness as well. Well, this one will not do it. And yeah, again, we can speak. Also, remember to take some water too because it heals 10 health, 1 per turn, but you get the idea. Sadly, this is how the mid-game and the end-game will be all about the consumables. I don't really recommend you take, let's say, morphine and nicotine, because if you take these two, you'll need naloxone and barfenil. So that's 4 items only to deal with QuasiMorph forces, which is a bit weird, but again, that's how the game is played, and you're most likely going to die from the addiction penalties rather than from the enemies themselves. 6. The best class and how to make it better. Well, now the best class, in my opinion, is still Tunnel Rats. So let's try and improve it. So I would keep all of the stuff from the left side because having a less wounding, smaller chance to get wounded is amazing. And what I would change from here will be to add the dodge. Let me see where the dodge is. To add the dodge. Add the hardened, because yeah, you need a lot more resistances, otherwise let's just say that I got killed by grenades, just by grenades. So also enemies will shoot a lot more bullets at you, and some of their weapons are really deadly, plus the crit chance. Yeah, dodge alone will not carry you very much in this game right now. And the last one, I guess it depends what everyone wants, but I recommend the one that gives you more accuracy in run mode. Let me see what it is. Athletics, yeah. So this will be kind of like how you modify the tunnel rats in the beginning. As you can see, you only need 3 AI modules, a few of those, and 1 memory records to basically modify it in a way that is pretty much permanent. Again, some people might have other preferences, but I'm telling you how I will prefer it. Glasses. Oh yeah, the genome over here. Now, how I would modify Percy? Well, simply put, I would give him... I don't have it right now because I didn't unlock that clone. I would give him the ability of the clone that reduces less the dodge based on weight. So the Japanese dude or whatever it was, the ability that reduces less the dodge based on weight. So you'll actually have more dodge with that perk. This one, Invincible, is not as good as it sounds if you get hardened and better armors and upgraded the armors. What else would I upgrade for Percy? Also, remember you'll upgrade armors anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I'd also give Percy 2 more points in vision, because a lot of the times I was getting attacked from the fog of war and I really dislike that. So I'll change this. I'll give him 2 more vision. And then some accuracy. Now, as for ranged accuracy, I think I would give him 5 levels. So that's 2 levels there, 5 levels in accuracy, and then I'll just buff his dodge as much as I can. This is where we'll get tricky. Now, as you can see, this is where all of those tips I gave you in the beginning come in hand. But again, I recommend you also get all of the upgrades for the ship before starting to do all of this, because it can get rather expensive and time consuming. And also with this update you can produce implants and augments, so keep that in mind when you're upgrading your character and what you need, because you'll need to upgrade your clone based on what implants and augmentings you want to keep permanently, basically. And just to give you a few examples, I have some lungs. Where are the lungs? Oh yeah, the lungs are over here. So you gain less calories, but you consume 70% less calories as well. So that will make the run and gun option a lot more viable. So you'd get more accuracy, more vision. You'd get more accuracy while running. And the other bonuses I mentioned. Plus, you will not use as much calories as you normally would while running anyway. Plus, with the tunnel rat, you'll get more items anyway. So this will not be such a big problem. You can actually use this for something else. You can also just have the blood filtration. Well, I hope it will more or less be permanent at some point. You can cleanse addictions, infections, and toxins, which is huge because this will eliminate the need to have 2 items to reduce QuasiMorphosis. So you'll be able to reduce QuasiMorphosis with only morphine, no more naloxone, and some other stuff. But again, it's a bit of a tricky situation because, yeah, this is a kind of a rare implant and you want to get everything set up for your perfect clone build, which will take a very long time. Probably it will take, I would say, 50 hours and upwards of 50 hours, maybe 100 hours to get everything set up like this. Now, tip number 7 is kind of like a more generalistic tips, and it's just a collection of things that I will tell you. So the biggest gameplay changes are that SMGs are stronger and they can push you back. Shotguns are much weaker, but stronger later. Slugs, oh yeah, this is a big modification. So a lot of people, including me, didn't understand what is happening with the shotgun. So let's take this shotgun over here. It's very important to understand this because this is the basic shotgun. Effective range is 6, and you may be wondering how does that happen, because the effective range without ammo is 5. Well, that's because the buckshot will reduce the damage by will reduce the range by 1 and increase scatter. Well, this one will cause knockback and knockdown, which knockdown is a stun, which is very important to know. So 6 range for the shotgun with slugs, which is amazing, and the damage is great. The crit chance is decent as well. I guess it can be better. But a 6 range shotgun will turn into a sniper rifle, more or less. Plus, this one has the collimator, which means it reduces the damage fall off by a lot. Well, not really a lot, but you get the idea. You can actually use it as a sniper rifle. Knockback is very important because if it gets closer, you just knock it back. You also have a chance for knockdown. Also, the laser sight. Within the effective range, the weapon's accuracy is 95%, but critical hits are disabled. So, it's a bit of a trade-off. You have to understand so many new mechanics right now. Unload the ammo, put it there. So now this has a range of 4. Still has the knockback, but it loses the knockdown. And this is kind of like a rule for the rest of the items as well. You have to look at the ammo types and some of the other stuff as well. Let me see if I can have if I have an SMG that causes, yeah, knockback range. Knockback 2 tiles when a knockback is triggered. Knockback 26% chance to knockback. Again, it's a little bit weird, but you'll see these changes a lot in the enemies with shotguns and SMGs, and you'll not understand what's happening. So, yeah, be very, very careful. Energy guns were also nerfed, but they're still quite strong as they are. The fire was also made a little weaker, but as you can see, the damage of these guns is nerfed, but they have a higher crit chance. So basically, the energy guns are usually weak, but sometimes they can be strong, if that makes sense. Also, the backpacks are much easier to find. I was fighting backpacks, fighters, and buffaloes pretty early into the game as well. They're easier to find, but I still recommend you stockpile them, especially the buffaloes and the fighters. But yeah, it's kind of good that sometimes you can find backpacks, so don't worry if you lose your own, because sometimes you will find them in missions, so you don't really have to run all over the galaxy to barter them. Heavy ammo is the king again, which is a bit of a weird turn of events. Heavy ammo because it has the crit chance mod, and yeah, sniper rifles are amazing right now. Maybe a little too good, because they have the crit chance based on the ammo, based on the clone crit chance as well. I'm not sure if I can look. Crit damage. Just show me the crit chance over here. I'm not sure where you can see all of the crit bonuses, but yeah, if you add, let's say, this thing over here says 8, plus with the backup gun, which means it will give another 8, it should be 16%, but I'm pretty sure all the clones have a basic crit chance, so it's about 20% to crit. It says 8 over there, but it's very deceiving because it's not taking into account a few things anyway. Don't worry too much about that, just know that the pistols, or anything that can be categorized as a pistol, because this is not a pistol, this is an SMG as well. This gun is crazy. Will give you some other effects, so that's why some enemies will hit harder if they have a secondary weapon, a pistol. Enemies also will carry grenades on them, and they can have different elemental damage like the plasma, the cold, the entropy damage, which is new. It's also recommended you carry grenades as well to kill enemies that are just in a room, or most of the times you'll find an enemy filled up with rooms or a hallway. And also melee is more dangerous because the melee weapons have more damage right now. 59, wow, they're not joking, are they? That one has 2 strikes. 1 or 2. Some weapons can be thrown. Too bad I not have the Tets Clan weapons. Oh yeah, look at this. 73 to 84. Just in case you're wondering why they kill so much, the QuasiMorphs will kill enemies so fast. Is that, and they, yeah, also cleave. And again, a lot of other things, but we'll not go into many details. Smell is more strong. It's much more dangerous and stronger in general. Now let's go to team number 8. Ship upgrades after navigation. So I really recommend you upgrade navigation first because of all of the reasons I said. The missions, the scanner on the floor, plus the ability to get a corporation faster. Again, it depends on what items you find, but after you get navigation, the next thing you should get is the hangar. So try to unlock the shuttle as fast as you can and some upgrades for it, plus the capsule. So the capsule and the shuttles are very, very important right now because, like I said, you just need a ton of other things as opposed to how we used to play the game before. Plus all of the implants, all of the other chips, all of the extra guns and extra armor you need. It's a lot. You need to unlock the hangar after you do the navigation. Or like I said, it depends on what you find, on what you can barter for, what you can buy. But next is a bit of a surprising thing. Yeah, the cloning and the genome and the other stuff. But sadly, you'll have to upgrade your production as well. Because you need to produce more consumables, you need to produce more ammo because most of the guns will eat up ammo like it's crazy. That's why I prefer using the sniper rifle because they use a lot less ammo in comparison. I mean, let me show you what I mean. It's a bit of a weird situation. So let's say, for example, this thing over here, 35 to 50, it can shoot 5 or 8 bullets. Yeah, look at this. This thing, when you're shooting from cover, is much better. So the Legacy is a much better weapon, but if you shoot 5 or 8 bullets every time and you shoot 10 times, that's 50 bullets. So shooting this gun 10 times will deplete 50 bullets, which will be the same as shooting this gun 50 times. And the damage of this gun will be much better because of the range, accuracy bonus and some other stuff. Sadly, they don't show you all of the bonuses because when you select the firing mode in the mission, you'll actually see that most of them will have some modifiers. For example, for some guns, you'll actually have a lot more accuracy bonuses if you shoot a single shot, but that's not really how you should think of it. Just think of it as a chance to hit plus the potential damage. So sometimes you will feel like you're doing a lot more damage with a shotgun, like this one, with the slugs, than you're doing with the sniper rifle or the SMGs or other weapons like the heavy machine guns. Just because of all of the extra bonuses that are added or all of the extra debuffs that are added to it. Yeah. And we didn't even talk about ammo types, but that's also a major factor of this. So you need all of these upgrades for consumables, for ammo, to produce armors, backpacks, and some other stuff. And especially reduce the assembly time. I was stuck with no upgrades for such a long time to the point where it almost drove me crazy because I needed to wait 2 or 3 days for a single stack of shotgun ammo. And some shotguns right now, like the Jeff Hammers, don't have a single shot mode anymore. They have only burst. So 2 or 5 shotgun shells. That will chew through your supplies so fast. And then you can just focus on the other stuff as well. But these upgrades are much more important right now, for better or for worse. I'm at the supply producing. Oh, by the way, remember that if you get to this, you'll get extra supplies and you can get some stuff after the mission itself is done, so extra rewards as well. So it's still kind of like a normal thing to do, but it's actually a lot more important right now to have these 3 upgrades going: the navigation, the hangar, and the supply. Tip number 9. Okay, now let's go to the more practical things like the loadouts. What do I like to have on my Percy right now? Well, depends on the mission type, but you'll never be protected against everything. So if you have, let's say, 12 fire resist, that's not really enough. I would really want more. But the way the game works right now is that you want to have about 70 armor in everything. 66 will give you I guess around 65. Let's just say 65 for the free ones, for the first 3. So blunt, pierce, and cut as close to 65 as possible. Then depending what you're doing in a mission, what you're fighting, if they have energy weapons, I recommend more beam. If they have electric weapons, more shock. If you're fighting Tet's clan or sometimes even Daydream Chems, if you're fighting with Ancom, definitely need a core resist because they're firing cold bullets. Yes, cold bullets is a thing in the game right now. I really wish we had an encyclopedia or something like an index where you can look at all of these things. Otherwise, you don't even know about them, and it's kind of sad. So the Aurora and the Dawn patterns are actually very, very good right now because the Aurora will give you cold resistance plus the normal resistances. This will give you electric and radiation. So with an Aurora pattern armor set, well, you still would need some resistance against the blunt. So maybe 2 Aurora and 2... you get the idea. mix and match armors, but be careful of these things, especially for them to pick grenades. As for your main weapon, I recommend it's always a sniper rifle, especially the bishops and their upgrades, the Hunter RX. The Hunter RX also kind of rare, so that's why I mostly use. This one has 6 bullets, this one has 9. You really want the Hunter RX as much as possible. Also think about the crit damage. As the secondary weapon, I really prefer this Type 77 pistol because all of these magnificent things. Plus it uses 9mm bullets, which seems like it's a little bit overpowered. It's definitely overpowered, especially because it has 4 range. Also keep in mind that the sniper rifles cannot hit almost anything if the enemy gets closer to you than 4 tiles. So if the enemy is at 4 tiles or 5, that's great, you'll hit them. If they enter the 3 tile range, you will not hit anything. So you always need a backup gun like this, so it might as well be a pistol. That's also a major change to the game. You cannot use a single weapon anymore. Plus, the weapons don't really have that much ammo, and if they have the ammo, you'll use to shoot it. This will be kind of like my preferred loadout, otherwise you can just use the Starlock pistol or any shotgun pistols. Why a shotgun pistol, you might ask? Well, just to level up the Tunnel Rat, shotguns. That's the only reason. Otherwise you can, for example, use the Snow Wolf, which does a ton of damage and has some really cool features, but it uses .42 ammo. So look at the Taurus, it has the painful crits. Oh yeah, it uses cryo ammo. I guess I can show you. This from where I captured this one, from Endgame. So this does cold damage, crit chance mod 9%. So they can have such a big crit. I mean, let's do a little bit of math so you understand. So 5 bullets. So this is crit chance 0. 5 bullets with a 9%, almost, let's say 10. Let's just say about a 20% chance to hit a crit, and the maximum damage is 32, and it can shoot 5 bullets. And guess what? If you have 0 core resistance, you're out of luck, because that's a certain death, even if you just they just hit you normally. So be very careful of stuff like this. As for the other, I'll speak already about the consumables. I like to have a consumable and ammo over here. Buffalo backpack if you can. But actually this is the most important part over here, the vest. Why am I using the cuirass? I think this is the best vest in the game currently because it has a size of 2, it has a resistance of 28, beam is actually a pretty decent resistance to have. Pierce and cut is also very good to have. This is most of the weapons, so I guess that's why you need an armor that gives you some blunt resistance, because you have the cuirass that both buffs the other ones. Plus it reduces your reload duration by 2, which is amazing because I guess I didn't mention this, but all of the weapons have increased reload durations. So you have to put a bullet in the vest, and when you reload, for example, the Type 22, it will have a much faster reload, only 2 turns, which means you'll reload it in a single turn. Which is amazing. Also, you might be wondering, what about the other ones? Well, I cannot get a veteran vest, sadly. They are so hard to get right now. Let me see if some of these factions will have it. The veteran vest is basically an improved version of the normal vest. I don't see it around here, but the veteran vest will give you armor as well, and I think it also gives you a reload bonus. I don't remember. I think I only found one, and as you can imagine, I lost it immediately. So it's not the smaller vest, it's the vest that is actually armored. Well, if you can find one, then it's good as well. So yes, sadly this is how it will be. I also recommend you have a gunsmith, because most of the guns will I guess no, not most of them, all of them will lose 1 durability per shot fired. So that means if I shoot this gun, let's say 10 times with the burst mode, that's minus 40 durability, which is almost half of its total HP. And the way the repair works right now, you can only repair a gun about 2 or 3 times, even less for the sniper rifles because they have a lot less durability. Which means this gun will almost be destroyed after about 2 repairs, which means a gun can generally fire about, I don't know, let's just say 50 times before it's completely destroyed, even with repairs. So that means you also need a repair kit at all times with you, which is an annoying thing. Oh, I have to craft some. So I recommend you repair all the guns 2 times with the weapon parts. spring as well or some other things, so minus 10 max durability. And then just use a repair kit, because the repair kits restore max durability. So yeah, be very careful how you handle all of this stuff, because it will get very annoying at some point. Plus, you want to carry some extra medicine, some food, and some other stuff, but this is kind of like my preferred loadouts as well, with grenades and some other stuff. Now, this was tip number 9. Let's go to tip 10, which is actually the final thoughts about this version of the game and what you can do. The game feels... This is the general view of the game, according to myself for now. The game feels like it's on a strict timer right now. You have to get your clone and ship upgrades before the faction reach technology levels 4 or 5, and keep that clan under control, because they're much stronger right now because of all of these reasons I mentioned. So I failed to keep Uncom under control like I always do. It's so hard to keep them under control because I cannot access most of their stuff outside of the system. It's just too far away. Dilty is not having a fun time, also because I keep helping all of the minor corporations. They are attacking the big ones as well, so that's good. Dilty is not under control either, because yeah, Dilty and Ancom are the bane of your games, to be honest. Horrible. SBN is actually pretty easy to keep under control, but as you see, they're also pretty high on the list. Thankfully, because their weapons were most nerfed, or I guess they're just not in line with the other weapons damage and stuff. They're pretty easy to combat. Unchained Bell doesn't really get a lot of technology because their starting locations don't have a big technology boost. And Tianming it's also pretty hard to control, but lucky for us, they don't have the really deadly weapons as the other factions. I wonder what that is. Is that a drone? It looks like a drone. Yeah. You also have the lungs and that other thing as a reward. Oh, that as well. I wonder what that is like using. This is, by the way, the super heavy ammo. So this is a 50 cal rifle. From the looks of it, I'm not sure what that is. So yeah. Oh yeah, and Tet's clan. Let's look at Tet's clan. We are keeping Tet's clan under control. Yes, we are keeping them under control. They have only a few factions and a few assets, and sadly they are tech level 3. Because of how this currently works, keep in mind that cold damage is very hard to be protected against. I think their weapons do cold damage, if I remember correctly. They don't give you ammo anymore, so you cannot see that. Yeah, they really have to fix some of this stuff. That means you'll have to have a separate armor and separate weapon set to fight them, which will be very annoying. Yeah, and owning a minor corporation is fun, but some corporations will be wiped out, so you actually have less corporations to interact with. So, if let's say you reach the endgame, a few corporations will be wiped out, completely, permanently destroyed from the game, and you take over a minor corporation. That's actually a lot more corporations minus to the game, so that actually detracts a lot from the game, especially because Tesla and it's always the same, you don't want to fight them. So you'll be left with fighting the same 2 or 3 enemies forever, which is something I always wanted to avoid in the game. You try to control the game a lot more, not just how you upgrade or how you progress, but also how the other factions progress. I would also recommend you wait before you jump into a long run, like for example plus 100 hours, because the next update will feature the ship engines, which is something that we really need. Let me see where it could be. I don't think it will be in research hangar. I guess it will be in research. So the next upgrade or the next thing you can upgrade on a ship will be engines, and I think this will be the engine upgrade, complete with all of this stuff. So you'll be able to travel faster. They'll also introduce some ship travel events, which means you will not be able to travel long distances without the engine upgrades because you'll get battered by events. You'll probably get annoyed by them. And you'll also be able to visit all of the locations that you have never seen, because you'll be able to do more missions and control the growth of the factions much better. Plus, you'll have access to more planets, which means more trading options, more barter options, more direct buy options. And you'll be doing the missions you like, meaning you don't have to do the defense missions or the escort missions. Ah, that's horrible. So yeah, the engine upgrade and the engine update will really change how the game is played. So I guess wait a little bit if you're not sure if you should play a long run or a shorter run. Just work on the things I mentioned and you should be okay for the most part. currently the mid-game is about after 15 hours of playing the game, or I guess it's mostly on the missions played. There was a way to look at the stats, but I keep forgetting. Oh yeah. So you enter the mid-game after about 30 completed missions. I killed a lot of humans, not so many QuasiMorphs. 31 deaths, that's a lot of deaths. 24, that's not a lot. At Wharf, amputations. Oh, oh. Don't look at this one, it's an accident. I was accidentally eating burgers and I ate a human burgers. So yeah, have fun with the game and enjoy. Bye bye.